Good morning, Shabbat Shalom. I hope you had a nice week and praying that next week is going to be a blessed week again. This morning we're going to be talking about the daughters of Zelophehad. Okay, so that's the Hebrew name and the way you pronounce it in Hebrew. Zelophehad. So in English, you might read it as Zelophehad, but the way you're supposed to say it is that thing where it has to go Zelophehad. Okay, so the daughters of Zelophehad. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that character in the Bible, but very interesting name, right? So let me first start with how the Torah is like how it is set up, so that the whole thing is like it all jive, it all connects, right? So imagine that these are scrolls, because they are actually the Torah is written in scrolls. Okay, so now imagine them like books. So Genesis and Deuteronomy, which is the last book of the Torah, they're at the end. So they're like the book ends. Or imagine it like a hamburger sandwich. Hamburger, right? You have the buns, and then you have two patties, and then you have the cheese. Like you're supposed to have two cheeses, right? But just imagine it like that. Okay, so in Genesis and Exodus, they're kind of like they kind of like mirror each other. Okay, so in Genesis, you'll see at the end of Genesis, you'll see Jacob blessing his sons, and he also blesses the sons of Joseph, right? And then you'll see his death in chapter 49, the death of Joseph in chapter 50. And then in Deuteronomy, you're going to see Moses' blessing to the Israelites before they're going to go to the promised land. Now remember, the first generation, all those people that came out of the land, they're all dead by now. And so now these are the children of this generation, and they are about to enter the land. So Deutero is second, Nomos is law, so kind of like Deuteronomy is the second law. So Moshe is going to reiterate the law among the new generation, who are going to be led by Yehoshua, or Joshua in English, and they're going to occupy the promised land. Right? And then you have Exodus and Numbers. Now, these are the ones that mirror each other. And Leviticus is in the middle. Now, Leviticus is all about the offerings, the priesthood, purification, okay, water ritual, the tabernacle. It's all about holiness and the festivals. Now, when you go to Exodus, Exodus has three movements, the same as Numbers. So from Exodus 1 through 12, you'll see the slavery of the Israelites in Egypt. And then 13 to 24 is them going through the Red Sea and staying in Sinai. 25 to 40 is all about the blueprint of the tabernacle, the erection of the tabernacle, the establishment of the tabernacle. And then in Numbers, again, three movements, same like Exodus. You go from 1 to 12, which is the first, they're going to encamp in the wilderness, and this is where the first census will happen. By the way, Numbers is not really based on that word census. It's actually based from the word Bemidbar, because Bemidbar is in the wilderness. So the scroll is actually named in the wilderness. Okay, so second movement is 13 to 24, and this is their wandering in the wilderness. And the third and final movement from 26 to 36 is them going to the promised land, and this is where the second census will happen. Now, let's go look at the comparison, the similarity of Exodus and Numbers. So if you look at Exodus 1:12, here you will see how Pharaoh and Egypt became very dreadful of the children of Israel. Okay, and it says like this: but the more they afflicted them, the more they increased and grew, and they were in dread of the children of Israel. Then in Numbers, so we're going to be comparing these two. Numbers 22:3, and Moab was exceedingly afraid of the people because there were many, and Moab was in dread because of the children of Israel. So Exodus will begin with the king of Egypt, who is dreadful of the Israelites, and then Numbers, like at the latter part of it, you'll see another king, and this is King Balak, who is dreadful of the children of Israel. And then in Exodus chapter 1, you also see the 3 times that Pharaoh wanted to destroy the children of Israel. And you'll see that in verse 11, where he started assigning slave masters over the Israelites to afflict them. But the more that they are afflicted, the more that they increased. Then in verse 16, he commanded the midwives, and he said that if a Hebrew woman will bear a son, then they will have to kill that boy. But no matter what, these midwives didn't follow that rule, right? And they even told the Pharaoh, well, these Hebrew women, they're different, because by the time we get to them, they already have their babies, right? Okay, and then in verse 22, this is when he decided to kill the boys in Egypt, where he wanted them to be thrown in the Nile River. Now, it's the same thing in Numbers. In Numbers 22, you'll see Balak hiring the prophet Balaam, and he wanted him to curse the children of Israel because of that dread, right? So then in Numbers 22, 41, he would bring Balaam to a place. Actually, every time he wanted him to curse the Israelites, he would bring him to a certain place. So in 41, he brought him to the town of Bamoth Baal, and from there he said, maybe you can see them from here, and then curse them, right? And then the second time, he brought him to Watchman Hills and on top of Mount Pisgah. And so here and every time they would do it, they would even put up altars and make offerings and all that, so that the prophet will curse the children of Israel. And then the third one is in Numbers 23, verse 28, where Balaam was led to the top of Mount Peor. But every time, God will not allow Balaam to curse the children of Israel. And he even actually ended up blessing them. Okay, so we see that, and here we also, when we look at and read the book of Exodus and Numbers, we will see how the pattern of the garden will mirror the promised land. So in Eden, there is one law, right? And that is not to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And because man did not obey that, they were kicked out of the garden. So God drove them out of the garden. But this time, in the wilderness, because that is where they were drove out to. And in Numbers, you will see they are in the wilderness and about to enter the promised land, which echoes back to the garden. So now the promised land is the new Garden of Eden. And here, while in the wilderness, they are given the laws on how to live their life in the new Eden, in the new garden, which is the promised land. Okay, so now let's go to the story of the daughters of Zelophehad, because I believe that this has a very significant role, because the story in how the history and the story of Israel will unfold, right? So let's go to Numbers 26, and this is what it says. Now this is God telling Moshe how to distribute the inheritance to the children of Israel. Okay, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, the land is to be divided to these as an inheritance according to the number of names. To the large one you give a larger inheritance, and to the small one you give a smaller inheritance. Each shall be given its inheritance according to their registered ones. But the land is divided by lot. They inherit according to the names of the tribes of their fathers. According to the lot, their inheritance is divided between the larger and the smaller. Now, here's the problem. Zelophehad, in Numbers 27, he died, and Zelophehad did not have a son. So according to what God told Moshe, the land, the inheritance is to be passed down to the sons. So now this is the case that the daughters of Zelophehad presented to Moshe, because they said, we don't have brothers. Our fathers did not have brothers. So what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to is the name of our father going to be taken out of the registry of Israel because of that, because we don't have brothers, because our father did not have any brothers? So that is the case that was presented to Moshe. And so in verse 1 of chapter 27, it says, then came the daughters of Zelophehad, son of Hefer, son of Gilad, son of Machir, son of Manasseh. So they come from the tribe of Manasseh, from the clans of Manasseh, son of Yosef. And these were the sons, or the names of his daughters: Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, Tirza. And they stood before Moshe and before Eleazar the priest and before the leaders of all the congregation by the doorway of the tent of appointment, saying, our father died in the wilderness, yet he was not in the company of those who were met together against Yahweh in company with Korah. So if you remember the story of Korah, they rebelled against Moshe and Aharon, and these are coming from the same tribe, the tribe of Levi. And so the daughter said they did not go with Korah, right? But he died in his own sin, and he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be removed from among his clan because he had no son? Give us a possession among the brothers of our father. Moshe then brought their case before Yahweh. And so that case, that word case, is the word mishpat, which is the word for justice. Okay, so to them, they feel that it is an injustice if they do not inherit a portion of the land just because they did not have brothers, just because they are women. So the Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, the daughters of Zelophehad speak what is right. So Yahweh actually considered that case, and he decided that it is fair and it is right. Okay, you should certainly give them a possession of inheritance among their father's brothers, and cause the inheritance of their father to pass to them. And speak to the children of Israel, saying, when a man dies, has no son, then you shall cause his inheritance to pass to his daughter. And if he has no daughter, then you shall give his inheritance to his brothers. And if he has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to his father's brothers. And if his father has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to the nearest relative in his clan, and he shall possess it. And it shall be to the children of Israel a law of right ruling, as Yahweh commanded Moshe. Now, in Numbers 36, the male from the clan of Gilad, they presented another issue. Okay, so, and here's the issue. Let's read Numbers 36. And the heads of the fathers of the clans of the children of Gilad, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, of the clans of the sons of Yosef, came near and spoke before Moshe and before the leaders, the heads of the fathers of the children of Israel, and said, Yahweh commanded my master to give the land as an inheritance by lot to the children of Israel. And my master was commanded by Yahweh to give the inheritance of our brother Zelophehad to his daughters. Now, if they are married to any of the sons of the other tribes of the children of Israel, then their inheritance shall be taken from the inheritance of our fathers, and shall be added to the inheritance of the tribe into which they marry, and taken from the lot of our inheritance. So the issue is their issue. So they were saying, okay, so you give these women their right to the land, their inheritance, their portion of the inheritance. But what if they get married to a man who is of a different tribe? So then their possession will go to that tribe, right? So, and they were saying, so then we're going to lose a part of our inheritance because of that. And so what they decided is that the women, if they inherited something, they should marry from their own tribe so that they keep the land in their own clan, in their own tribe. Okay, so these are all cases that are being presented to Moshe. And so here we see that they are not specifically addressed in the Torah, but here God is actually telling Moshe that when this happened, a certain spirit of wisdom is is needed to be exercised so that these problems will be resolved. Okay, and this is how they resolve them. Now, the way the issue of the daughters of Zelophehad was resolved is that there was an issue before, and if you look at Numbers 9, this is the issue of some males who were not able to attend Passover. Okay, so starting from verse 5, you will see their dilemma. So they were saying that, okay, the Pesach is going to be celebrated on the 14th day of the first month of the year. But they were saying, what if we are defiled? What if we are unclean? Or what if we are traveling? How are we going to celebrate? Right? Because there are some instances where they cannot because they have touched something that is unclean, or they were in contact of someone who is unclean. So then they're not able to be a part of the Pesach. So then they were saying, what are we supposed to do with this one? So Moshe again presented this issue to Yahweh, and Yahweh resolved it by saying, okay, if they're not able to do it on the first month, okay, then they can do it on the second month. So wait the second month, on the 14th day of the second month, then they can observe the Pesach. So this is kind of like in law, you call it the stare decisis, okay, and it's kind of like a precedent of a certain issue, a certain thing, right? So if it happened before, then the same pattern or the same principle is going to be applied to another case. So it's the same thing with this one. So going back to the daughters of Zelophehad, in Genesis 1, 27 and 28, we will see the original intent of Yahweh. And the original intent of Yahweh is that man is created according to his likeness, according to his image, right? In his image, in his likeness. And the way Genesis 1 presented Yah is him creating everything. So he is a creator. And by his words, by the authority of his words, he was able to create everything that needs to be created, right? And so here, Yahweh is giving that authority, the same image, the same likeness, how he created. He wants man to multiply. He wants man to subdue the earth. He wants him to rule, okay, over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and everything in creation. Okay, so, and that is that intent. And so when we look at it, the inheritance, the portion of that inheritance is given in the wilderness while they are waiting to enter the land, right? And in the beginning, God wanted both man and woman to rule. So male and female alike, they were given that authority, they were given that responsibility of rulership. And so here, because we are seeing that it's only male, right, that are supposed to get the inheritance. But Yahweh, with looking back in Genesis, gave the right to the children of Zelophehad to inherit a portion of the land. And so we will see here, promised land is the new Eden. And if God originally gave man this authority, both man and woman, is the same thing, is a picture of that when they enter the new Eden. When they enter the promised land, God expects both man and woman to rule, to have that same authority. And so we can also connect this to the prophecy that was given to Judah, where it says that the scepter shall not depart from his clan. Right? So that is in Genesis 49:10. Then it's also prophesied to David in 2 Samuel 7:16 that the kingdom, the reign, will be steadfast, will be eternal. It will be forever. Okay, it is forever given to the line of David. Then in Jeremiah 33:17, the prophet also foretold that there will always be someone, there is always be a man who's going to sit in the throne, right, from the line of David. However, if you go back to Jeremiah 22, there is a man named Jeconiah, or we also know him as Coniah or Jehoiakim, right? Jehoiakim was a wicked king. Okay, he is from the line of David, coming from the line of Solomon. There was a curse that was given to this king, and to him it was prophesied in 22:33 of Jeremiah. Yahweh says, write this down about Jehoiakim. He does not have children anymore. Jehoiakim will not be successful because none of his children will sit in the throne of David. None of his children will rule in Judah. So then, how are we going to connect that to the promise to David where his sons, okay, will always be, forever be on the throne? Because Jehoiakim comes from the line of David. And the prophecy, the curse that was given to this man is that his sons will never sit on the throne. Okay, because Jehoiakim had several sons, but there is that curse. Now, if we look at Luke 3:24 and Matthew 1:16, we will see a presentation of genealogy, the genealogy of Yahusha here. Okay, so let's start with Matthew first. Matthew 1:16. And Jacob brought forth Joseph, the son of Miriam, and whom was born Yahusha, who is called Messiah. Okay, let me read that again. And Jacob brought forth Joseph, or Joseph. So Jacob brought forth Joseph. So Joseph is the son of Jacob. Okay, and Joseph is the husband of Mary, or Miriam. And Yahusha is born of Miriam, and he is called the Messiah. Now, let's look at Luke 3:23, because this is the parallel verse. And when Yahusha himself began, he was about 30 years of age, being as reckoned by law, son of Joseph, of Eli. So Jesus, the son of Joseph, the son of Eli. So if you've noticed, it's different because in Matthew 1:16, it says Joseph is the son of Jacob. How come in Luke 23, it says Joseph, the son of Eli? Okay, because Luke is focused on the lineage of Mary. Okay, while Matthew is focused on the line of Joseph. So Eli is actually the father-in-law of Mary. So if you've noticed, in the genealogy, it's always the son. Okay, so it's the male that are being named. Okay, but here, Mary is being named because Yahusha is only supposed to be the son of Joseph, because he's not actually the biological father, because Yahusha is conceived by the Holy Spirit. Now, let's look another verse, Matthew 1:6. And Jesse brought forth David the sovereign, and David the sovereign brought forth Solomon by Uriah's wife. So there, here you see, Jesse is the father of David, and David is the father of Solomon. Now let's look at Luke. Luke 3:31, of Malaya, of Mena, of Matata, of Nathan, of David. So you see here, it's not Solomon. Here, in the genealogy of Mary, okay, it's focusing on Nathan. So Joseph comes from Solomon, Mary comes from Nathan. And so the promise in 2 Samuel is still being fulfilled because, okay, Jeconiah is cursed and his sons will never sit on the throne. But Mary's line, the other brother of Solomon, because they have the same father, same mother, Bathsheba, right? So Nathan, okay, so that line will produce the Messiah. Okay, and so here we can see how, because Mary is named in the both genealogy. She was named. And if you look at John 19:25, okay, John 19 is when Yahusha was crucified, right? And at the foot of the cross, this is what John 19:25 says. And by the cross of Yahusha stood his mother, Mary, and his mother's sister, that is the wife of Cleopas, and Miriam of Magdala. Okay, so this is Mary Magdalene. Okay, so you see here how Mary, and it is noted, right? It is noted that she is the sister of Miriam. I don't know how you can do that. Name your kids both Mary, but in the Philippines it's okay, right? Maria Luisa, Maria, right? Magdalena. Okay, whatever. So now we can actually kind of like connect that case that was presented to Moshe in Numbers 22 about the daughters of Zelophehad. So here we can connect how in our life God wants us to inherit, okay, and share the same responsibility, share the same authority when we get to the land, when we get to the promised land. Although now we're hoping, right? Because one day it's gonna happen. We are going to be transported there. We're going to be physically living in the land. But in the land, God is expecting us. And even now, because now we are already in the kingdom. Right? The kingdom is actually happening among us. And we are actually now practicing, rehearsing how it is to rule, because that is the original intent of the garden. Right? And it is through Messiah that is going to be possible. And one day we are going to see him face to face, ruling in Jerusalem, because that is where he's going to live with his people. And we are going to be living with him, not only temporarily, but permanently, forever, eternally. Amen. So I hope you enjoyed this study. Let's come back next week with joy in our hearts. And so I pray that you're going to have a blessed week. Shabbat Shalom. Bye, everybody.